Video games are a form of art. Some of them look like they were drawn by a colorblind 3-year-old, while others look like they were painted by the great artist Leonardo DiCaprio. Metroid Other M is one such masterpiece. Before we dive into the gameplay, it's important to note that Metroid Other M uses 3 methods to hook the player: setup, delivery, and execution. Setup is the way in which something is set up. A perfect example is this little critter. Samus sees it twice and describes it as being a disgusting beast. It doesn't show any signs of being aggressive, but it does leave the player on edge. Delivery, the way in which something is executed. Metroid Other M dabbles in all different kinds of genres: 2D platformer, 3D platformer, first-person shooter, and dating sim. The Metroid series has been moving in this direction for years now, so seeing Teenage Ridley lay on top of you with his tongue flapping around just felt natural. It turns out that Teenage Ridley was actually the small creature from before. Flawless execution. Execution. I didn't want electric chair to show up in my search history, so I just drew one for you. It turns out that Teenage Ridley was actually the real Ridley this whole time. I believe this is the 7th time that Samus has had to fight Ridley, and yet it's the first time that she's ever had PTSD. It's really cool to see a weakness in somebody who's usually super strong. Perfect delivery. Now, it's about time we talked about gameplay. In order to start the game, you had to press 2. This is genius because it teaches the player that the button exists and will be used later. You're immediately met with a cutscene, and oh boy does it look good. It's so realistic, I thought it was actually being filmed in space the first 5 times I watched it. Way better than those blocky games from the past. At first, Samus is very limited in her abilities. All she can do is walk and jump. This is because Adam has not authorized her weapons yet. Samus describes Adam as being a loving,
"What are you doing here?"
joking,
Any objections, lady?
compassionate guy.
That information is not for an outsider.
He tells her not to use any of her weapons because they could endanger the space station. And it makes sense. What if this bomb blew up the entire space station? What if the heat-resistant Variosuit added a little bit of extra weight to Samus and weighed down the entire station, sending it off course directly into the sun? It's logical things like this that make Adam controlling Samus's equipment the best reason for why she has to slowly unlock things. It's not some throwaway plot point like getting bit by a random parasite. As mentioned before, Other M mixes multiple genres and nails every one of them. Most of the game takes place in third person. Auto-aim and the ability to dodge every attack makes this game effortless, thus making it incredibly satisfying. In first person mode, you're not allowed to move, which is understandable. You have to remember this is a Nintendo game, and Nintendo fans are a bunch of babies who have never even seen an FPS before. Simplifying first person mode is an accessibility option that hurts us true gamers. I don't like to complain about the game, but not even a masterpiece can be perfect. Despite its flaw, first person mode offers one good thing. It's the only time missiles can be used. This makes wasting missiles impossible. If you do run out of missiles, or health, then they can be restored by holding the Wii Remote upward and holding the A button. I'm all for accessibility options in video games, and having basically infinite missiles and energy is a good mandatory addition. We take them for granted now, but before Metroid Other M, bosses weren't really a thing. We have the all-new original bosses such as Construction Man, Gravity Man, Nightmare, and Alien Man to thank for the tough enemies we now know as bosses. The story is, without a doubt, the strongest aspect of Metroid Other M. I've already mentioned how well developed Adam is. Samus has another friend named Anthony. He's also nice. I like how Samus narrates her feelings and explains what's going on at all times. She's sort of like a walking, talking audiobook. The main plot of the game is, a scientist named Madeline Bergman created an AI that grew emotions and started recreating Planet Zebes. Also, Anthony dies. And Adam dies. There's a cool side story that actually inspired Among Us. There's an imposter among the crew members who kills the other ones. The major difference between Among Us and Other M is one of them has distinct, interesting crewmates with lives that go beyond the game you're playing, and the other one has tasks that must be completed. The imposter ends up being, James. Yeah, he was such a great character. It's a shame to see that he was actually evil. There are subtle hints that John's the imposter, such as that time when he psychotically used all of his ammo on a bug that was already dead. Oh wait, that was Lyle? Then, in that case, it was a very good red herring. Alas, all good things must come to an end, but at least Metroid Other M ties up all of its loose ends. MB goes crazy and almost shoots her creator, when out of nowhere a squad of Galactic Federation troopers comes in. Then, bugs start coming off the walls and Samus has to fight them in first person. Most epic final boss ever. I wasn't able to record it, but there's a really cool moment where Samus was struggling and remembers all of the important people in her life who she fights for. All 2 of them. And they're dead. Oh, never mind, one of them survived a 100-foot fall into a pool of lava. Metroid Other M is a masterpiece. It's a shame to see Metroid Fear decided to go back to the old, outdated style of Metroid games. Other M gets a thumbs down of approval from me.